Hi, I'm Maisie Chan and I'm really excited to be part of Read Woke South Ayrshire. So I'm a Glasgow author, but I'm originally from Birmingham, which is a very diverse city. And I wrote the book Danny Chung Does Not Do Maths, which I know is on your Read Woke curriculum. So if you haven't read it, I'll tell you all about the book and then I can give you a few exercises to do at the end. So I didn't grow up in a house full of books. My mum used to take me to the library quite a lot. We just didn't have money for books at home. But I love going to the library and choosing books to read, and we could get 4 books with 4 tickets. Nowadays, a lot of libraries let you take 10 books, which I think is amazing. So if you've got a local library, definitely try to get there with your parent or guardian. So I love stories, and Danny Chung is about an 11-year-old boy who lives above a Chinese takeaway with his parents. He loves to draw, but his parents really would like him to be good at maths and science and other academic subjects. But he just wants to stay in bed in his pajamas and draw mutant creatures in his pajamas. You know, he doesn't want to leave the house. He just wants to do his own thing. I imagine some of you sometimes feel like that if your parents want you to do one thing, but you want to do another thing. Danny has a best friend called Ravi, and Ravi loves knights and medieval things. And he also helps Danny with his comics. He likes to do the speech bubbles. One day, Danny gets a bunk bed and he thinks that's going to be brilliant because he can have sleepovers with Ravi. But instead, he gets a Chinese grandmother. She moves into his room and she takes the top bunk. Now, Danny's not happy about this at all. So the book's about their relationship, and over Easter, Danny has to granny sit his Chinese grandma. She can't speak English and he can't speak Chinese, so there's a communication problem. He's also got issues with his mum comparing him to his mum's friend. So Amelia Yee is really good at everything, the piano, the violin, math, science, English, everything. And his mum keeps comparing him to her, which he doesn't like either. So I'm going to read an extract from the book now, and then I'll talk a little bit more about how I came up with the characters. So this is the first chapter. It's called Half Duck, Half Dragon. Drawing makes me feel good. I draw literally everywhere, in bed with a torch and even on the toilet. Well, you can be sat for quite a while, and yes, I always wash my hands afterwards. Sometimes I sketch in the park at weekends with Ravi, my best mate. My favourite bit is coming up with new characters. Ones that half one thing and half another, the best of both worlds, like wholemeal bread and white bread put together. I was really pleased with my newest creation that I called a dragon. It was a mutant duck with a dragon's head. It's very Chinese, if you ask me. Dragons are the most beloved and lucky creatures in Chinese mythology, and ducks are yummy and succulent. The tricky part was the head. Chinese dragons don't look like other dragons, and they have no wings. Ravi is basically an expert on all things medieval and knights. He says Chinese dragons are anomalies, which is a nice way of saying they're weird. And they don't go around trying to eat princesses or battle knights. I think that's nice. A dragon is a Chinese win-win. From under my duvet, I heard the door to my room squeak open. "Danny, where are you?" It was Bar. I could tell from the sesame oil smell from the kitchen. Not now, I prayed. I was still drawing. I'd nearly finished the camel-like head of the dragon. The duck's body would of course be in scale with the head. You wouldn't want a tiny duck's body and a massive dragon head. That thing would lollop around and flop over. I snooped my duvet up over my head some more, hoping that Bar wouldn't see me. Saturdays were usually very busy, so my parents wanted me to help out by folding menus or piling pop cans on the shelf behind the counter. But I'd rather just draw in my pajamas instead. "We can see you, Danny Chung," Ma's voice said. "Come on, you need to leave your bedroom now. Bar and I have to clean under your bed. It's like a rubbish tip under there. There has to be more space in here." What? I peeked out from under the duvet. Ma had on her red apron that she wore when she did the counter each evening and bright yellow rubber gloves. Under her armpit was a feather duster. She was scanning my bedroom like she was on a mission. Bar knelt down with a pearly green dustpan and brush. He threw some black bags onto the carpet. Something wasn't right. His head was sweaty and he was all huffy. They never came in here to clean my room. Yes, we don't have much time, Bar said. We've been so busy and now we've only got a few hours left. He frantically started dragging out random things that I'd shoved into my bed frame. What was going on? A few hours left until what? Bar flung an old teddy bear out from under my bed. It only had one eye. Next, he stretched and pulled out a stack of old sketchbooks that were filled to the brim with my creations. Clean, but it's Saturday. Can't I just relax like the kids at school? On the weekends, they play computer games and go for ice cream. Saturdays are for doing, I don't know, nothing. Uh-oh. I regretted it as soon as I uttered the words nothing. I was going to get my dad's Chinese way lecture. So Danny Chung is one of the first books in the UK with a British Chinese main character, especially for 8 to 12-year-olds. I became an author because I wanted to see more books with British Chinese characters or East Asian characters, because when I was growing up, I didn't see any books at all that had positive role models for me. I couldn't see British Chinese people on TV or in films or in children's books at all. It was like we didn't exist. And yet there's so many Chinese people in the world. So I became an author to change that. I also want to make my books as inclusive as possible. So I always like to have different races in my book. So Ravi is Indian. And in my new book, we have British Chinese characters, British Vietnamese characters and black characters. I also want to have gay people in my book. So sometimes the secondary characters are gay, or they have, like Tyler in my new book, his parents are gay. Just because we live in a society where there are so many different types of people, I think it's also really key that children see disabled characters and characters from all around the world represented in our books. Because we don't just live in a bubble, we live in cities and countries where there's so many different types of people. And I believe it's really important to have a mirror to see yourself in a book, but also to teach other people about different cultures. So in Danny Chung Does Not Do Maths, I really put lots of things that I like about British Chinese culture, and I'll just show you some of those. So I've got my bag here. So I put in some things called pot stickers, and there's dumplings. There's a whole chapter where Danny and his grandma and his mum go for dim sum. And dim sum is Chinese, it's like Chinese tapas. You share the food and it's steamed or fried. So that's a char siu bao. It's like a fluffy white bun, and inside lovely red pork meat. And here's my favourite Chinese dessert. It's an egg tart, and I love these. I remember eating these a lot when I was growing up. So there's quite a lot of food in Danny Chung, and Danny's grandma is called Nai Nai, and that means grandma in Chinese. And she eats lots of fruit. So there's lots of fruit in Danny Chung because Asian people and East Asian people, they do eat lots of fruit. For example, during Chinese New Year, often families give each other oranges. So I wanted that kind of culture to be in the book. But also Danny's just like you and your friends. He's a normal 11-year-old boy. He wants to have his own voice and do what he wants. But sometimes, his parents want him to be someone else. And sometimes he wants to be in the cool gang and have things that they've got, which I'm sure sometimes you feel like that when you talk to your friends at school. You wish, oh, I wish I had that. So Danny's just like a normal boy. And he thinks he's not good at maths. But the book shows him, and the relationship with his grandma shows him that maybe there's other ways to look at issues and problems. And maybe you can do it your way. So that was one of the themes of the book. I also wanted to show a little bit about racism. I didn't go into it in depth, but the grandma, she can't speak English, and Danny takes her to bingo. And I've got some fake bingo balls here. Here we go. He takes her to bingo so he can go and play with the cool boys. But the problem is, a lot of the people at the bingo hall aren't very nice to her. Some of them don't like foreign people or immigrants, and actually they're a little bit mean to her. They won't let her sit with them. So I wanted to have that in the book because sometimes that happens in real life. And I think through books and through literature, we can have a thing called empathy, where we can try and understand other people that aren't like us. So that was really important for me to put in my book as well. Through all of my books and stories, there's usually a British Chinese character. And we might not be like Chinese people in China because we've grown up in the UK. We speak English, we like the same foods as you as well. So it was really important for me to have that familiarity and relatability in my books as well. So the idea for Danny Chung came first with the grandma character, Nai Nai. My friend Stella, who I used to go to school with, her grandma arrived from China to Birmingham aged 92. And I thought, what a brave woman she was. She was very small, strong but mighty, just like Nai Nai in the book. She couldn't speak the same Chinese as Stella. Stella spoke Cantonese Chinese and her grandma spoke a dialect from the village. So that's kind of in the book as well. So I thought about this grandma coming to Birmingham and I imagined her going to bingo because I thought if she can't speak English, maybe she knows numbers and maybe she could make friends by going to bingo. And that was the first sort of idea I had about writing this story. So sometimes characters come from people I know or situations, like sometimes I eavesdrop on the bus or on the subway and just, I like people, so I always sort of am on the lookout for interesting characters. So when I saw this grandma in real life, I thought she would make a really fun character. And then I thought, what would be the worst thing for a child in Britain? It would be to have maybe their grandma in their room all the time, eating their fruit that the child doesn't like, the child has no privacy. And so I thought that would create a lot of tension and a lot of fun. And that's where the idea for Danny Chung Does Not Do Maths comes from. So if you look to the front cover, there's a boy, that's Danny, who's 11. But when I first started writing the book, my son was actually 8. And I used to always listen to what he said about school and his friends at school. I wanted the boy Danny to be relatable. So sometimes my son would talk about other children, what they had, or wanting to play with certain boys, but couldn't get into that group. So I wanted to put very relatable issues and things into the book. So sometimes I do listen to my own children and observe. So lots of writers are keen observers. We're always looking for a story. And other characters like Mrs. Crookshanks, she was sort of based on one of my mum's old friends. So she used to have kind of this dirty raincoat and she had a bit of a moustache, but she was a very friendly woman. And originally, Mrs. Crookshanks was from Yorkshire, but in later versions, she became Scottish. I think because now I live in Scotland, I wanted someone Scottish in the books. So characters are really important when you write your stories. They're kind of the vehicle, they're the person that you follow throughout the whole story. So they have to be interesting. And I like to give my characters little quirks and things that they like and dislike that are different from other characters. So they need to look different too. They speak different, they wear different clothes. And so Danny loves drawing, that's his thing. And Ravi, he loves knights and history, that's his thing. But during their math presentation, you can also see they use their talents in different ways. So think about your characters when you write your own stories. How can you make them different to one another? How can they stand out on the page and be really interesting for your readers? I also wanted to set the book in Birmingham because, as you can tell from my accent, that's where I'm from. I don't live there anymore, I live in Glasgow. But I think because I grew up there I lived there for so many years, I really wanted to have a book that was set in Birmingham. So it's a fictional Birmingham, which means that some of it isn't real. I take the real city of Birmingham, but then kind of made up my own area. And you can do the same as well. I think that you can use your imaginations and create brilliant stories. And hopefully, if you are from a background like a Chinese background or Black background, African background, or Middle Eastern background, you can put some of your own culture into your books as well. And that makes them really, really special. So thanks for listening, and I hope you have a good time making your own characters. Bye for now. Hi, it's me again. So as I told you before, and as you heard in the first chapter, Danny loves to draw, and his speciality is hybrid creatures. It's creatures that are half one thing and half another, like the Draken, which was half dragon, half duck. So it's a kind of funny equation, that because it's to do with maths as well. Danny's come up with this idea of putting two things together that he really likes. So here's a drawing exercise for you guys. Can you think of an animal plus an animal to create a third animal? So for instance, you could do a dog, perhaps. Now, I'm not an illustrator, so this is just for having fun. You don't need to be good at drawing at all. So it's a dog, woof, 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 plus, let's say a fish. So let's do a fish with a big lips, plop, 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 plop. And that's going to equal, so what I want you to do is put the words together as well. So I think it could be called, if it's a dog and fish, so you can put the words together. Let me think. It could be a dish, or it could be a doughish. I think that might be fun. Doughish, so it's dog and fish, a doughish. And then you can draw the hybrid creature here. So it's going to have a dog's head, and I've got a dog, and she's a French bulldog. So if you've got dogs, you can draw what kind of dog you've got, but this is not a French bulldog because it is a tea big. So this creature is hybrid, it's a mixture of two things. And then if you wanted to, you could create a whole comic strip around that creature. Another thing that I think would be really cool to do would be to have a creative writing exercise. So Nina is from China, and she arrives to Birmingham from China. So perhaps you could write a letter to your best friend telling them about you moving countries. So imagine that you've moved to a country where the people don't speak the same language and the food is different. Maybe you can describe how you feel. Are people friendly, or are they not friendly towards you? You could write about in the letter what you're looking forward to, learning about that new culture. So you could have that creative writing exercise to do as well. So I do hope that you do enjoy. Danny Chung does not do maths, and you can find out all about my other work at my website, www.maisiechan.com. I really love writing, and I love being an author, and I love writing stories, but also I'm really proud that my books are diverse and inclusive too. So I look forward to seeing some of your hybrid creatures. You can put them on social media, get your school to do that, or your school can send me them. Your teacher can send me an email with some of your pictures. So well done for reading Woke, and I hope that you really enjoy the rest of the term. Bye for now.